Jack Miller looked out the view screen of his small survey shuttle at the barren, rocky surface of the moon below. The gray landscape stretched for miles, broken only by jagged mountains and deep craters. This was his third solo mission this year, and the silence of space had become both a comfort and a burden. Just another routine survey, he muttered to himself as he checked the shuttle's instruments. Horizon Mining Corporation paid good money for experienced geologists like him to scout potential mining sites, but the loneliness of these 3-month missions weighed heavily at times. Jack guided the shuttle toward a flat area near a promising mineral deposit. The computer had flagged this region for its unusual readings, suggesting valuable rare earth elements might be present. As the shuttle descended through the thin atmosphere, a warning light flashed on his console. What the hell? Jack leaned forward, tapping the alert. The sensors had detected another craft entering the moon's atmosphere less than 20 miles from his position. According to his briefing, this moon was uninhabited and unclaimed. No one else should be here. The shuttle's computer displayed the trajectory of the unknown vessel. It was coming in too fast and at an unstable angle. Jack watched as the craft's path became increasingly erratic. They're going to crash, he realized, already adjusting his course to intercept. Protocol stated he should maintain distance and report the incident to headquarters, but the nearest response team was 3 days away at best. By then, whoever was in that ship would be long dead. Jack's shuttle touched down half a mile from where the strange craft had made its landing or crash, more accurately. He suited up in his AV gear, checking the oxygen levels and making sure his emergency medical kit was secure. The moon's atmosphere was thin and toxic, not immediately. Lethal to humans, but certainly not breathable for more than a few minutes. "Base, this is Miller," he said into his comm. "I'm investigating an unidentified craft that made an emergency landing near my position. We'll report back with findings." The message would take hours to reach headquarters, but at least there would be a record of his actions. The alien ship was unlike anything Jack had ever seen. Its sleek, curved hull shimmered with an iridescent material that wasn't quite metal. One side was severely damaged, with what looked like blast marks scarring the beautiful surface. This wasn't just a crash, the ship had been attacked. Jack found what appeared to be a hatch, and after studying it for a moment, figured out the unusual locking mechanism. The door slid open with a hiss of escaping air. Inside, emergency lights pulsed with a soft blue glow, illuminating a smoke-filled cabin. Warning sounds, at least he assumed they were warnings, chimed in an unknown language. He moved carefully through the ship, noting the strange proportions of everything: doorways, slightly taller and narrower than human standard control panels, positioned for longer arms. Then he saw her. She lay unconscious beside what appeared to be the pilot's chair. Her form was humanoid, but unmistakably alien, tall and slender, with blue-tinted skin that had the same iridescent quality as the ship's hull. Her features were delicate, almost fragile-looking, with no hair, but instead a series of small, ridge-like crests on her head. She wore what looked like a uniform or flight suit in deep purple. Jack knelt beside her, medical scanner in hand. The device beeped in confusion, unable to make sense of her physiology, but it did confirm she was alive. As he considered what to do next, a loud crack echoed through the ship, and the deck plates beneath him shuddered. A quick glance at a flashing display told him everything he needed to know. This ship was about to become a very expensive coffin. Whatever had damaged it, it had hit something critical. "I hope you don't mind a little rescue," Jack said to the unconscious alien as he carefully lifted her. She was lighter than he expected, despite being nearly as tall as him. Her skin felt cool to the touch, even through his gloves. He had just made it back to the hatch when a series of explosions rocked the ship. Jack didn't wait around. He ran across the rocky ground toward his shuttle. the alien cradled in his arms, as the beautiful craft behind him began to break apart. The journey back to his shuttle was a blur of urgency and determination. Once inside, Jack placed the alien on the small medical cot and quickly removed his helmet, taking deep breaths of the shuttle's clean air. Computer, analyze life form and recommend life support parameters, he ordered, connecting a medical monitor to the alien's arm, or what he hoped was an arm. The computer hummed as it processed the data. Unknown species. Approximate oxygen requirements 50% higher than human standard. Body temperature significantly lower than human norm. Detecting unusual mineral composition in cellular structure. Jack adjusted the environmental controls for the medical bay, increasing oxygen levels and lowering the temperature. As he worked, the alien's eyes fluttered open. Jack froze as he found himself staring into eyes that were entirely purple, with no visible pupils or whites. They widened in obvious fear. The alien said something in a musical language of clicks and tones. When Jack shook his head to indicate he didn't understand, she reached slowly for a device attached to her suit. Jack tensed, but allowed her to retrieve it. She manipulated the small object, which projected a holographic display, then held it. Toward him. After a moment, the device spoke in a stilted mechanical voice. Who? You? Why? Take me. Jack pointed to himself. Jack Miller, human geologist. He pointed to the window in the direction of her now destroyed ship. Your ship was damaged. Going to explode? I brought you here. Safe. The alien studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly, a surprisingly human gesture. She touched the device again. Nixara, the translator said. Diplomat, Lesari Confederation. She paused, then added, First contact. Not like this. Planned. Jack smiled despite the situation. Not exactly how we planned first contact either. A loud alarm interrupted them. Jack turned to check the main console and felt his stomach drop. The shuttle's long-range sensors were detecting a massive ion storm, approaching the kind that could disable electronics and communications for days or even weeks. Computer, time until storm arrival? Approximately 47 minutes. Jack looked back at Nixara, who was watching him with those strange purple eyes. She seemed to sense his concern. Problem? The translator asked. Big storm coming. Will damage communications. Maybe more. We're stuck here. Together. He glanced at his supplies, mentally calculating. I have food and water for one human for 2 weeks. I don't know what you eat or drink. Nixara sat up slowly, wincing in what Jack interpreted as pain. She studied the shuttle's interior, then looked back at him. Your air. Different. Your food. Poison to me. The translator paused as she added more. You saved me. Now, both trapped. Jack nodded grimly. And only I can keep us alive until help comes. Outside, the first traces of the ion storm began to flicker across the moon's thin atmosphere, beautiful and deadly streamers of charged particles that would soon cut them off from the rest of the universe. Nixara watched the display with Jack, then turned to face him fully. The translator spoke again, this time with an unmistakable tone of determination. Then we survive, together. The ion storm hit with full force, just as Jack finished securing loose items in the shuttle. The entire vessel shook as waves of energy washed over it. The main lights flickered and died, leaving only the red emergency lighting. Computer, damage. Report, Jack called out, steadying himself against the wall. Main power at 30%. Communications array offline. Life support systems functioning at reduced capacity. Estimated repair time. Unknown without replacement parts. Jack looked over at Nixara, who sat perfectly still on the medical cot, watching him. Her purple eyes seemed to glow slightly in the dim red light. Not good, he said, pointing to the flickering displays. Storm damaged our systems. Nixara's translation device hummed. How long trapped? Jack ran a hand through his short brown hair. The storm could last anywhere from 3 days to 2 weeks. After that, maybe another week before anyone could reach us. He hesitated. And that's assuming my emergency beacon can penetrate the atmospheric interference. He moved to the supply locker and began taking inventory. Water purifiers, protein packs, vitamin supplements, medical supplies, all designed for human physiology. Nothing that would necessarily help Nixara. Need to know what you can eat and drink, Jack said, turning back to her. What your body needs to survive. Nixara stood carefully, still unsteady. She was tall, nearly 6.5 feet, making the shuttle's interior seem even more cramped. She pointed to her translator device and made a series of adjustments. Lysari requires specific minerals, similar to your ... calcium, magnesium, but different atomic structure. The translation was becoming smoother as the device learned. We drink water, but must be enriched with these minerals. We consume plant matter primarily. Jack nodded. The water I can handle. We have a molecular filter. If you can identify the minerals you need, maybe we can extract them from the moon's soil. He pointed out the window at the barren landscape. I'm a geologist. Finding and analyzing minerals is my job. Nixara tilted her head, a gesture Jack was beginning to recognize as consideration. You were military before. Yes, the way you move. Handle emergency. Jack was surprised by her perception. Space Force. 8 years as an engineer before I switched to geology. How did you know? Lysari studied body language of other species. Helps in diplomacy. She gestured to the shuttle controls. You have tools to analyze soil? Yes, that's standard equipment for survey missions. Jack moved to a small workstation. I can collect samples once the worst of the storm passes. Over the next few hours, they worked together to establish a plan for survival. Jack showed Nixara how to monitor the shuttle's life support systems while he tried to restore power to critical systems. She learned quickly, her slender blue fingers moving with surprising dexterity over the human-designed controls. Your atmosphere has less oxygen than I need, she explained as they worked. Already feeling effects. Breathing harder. Jack frowned. The shuttle can increase oxygen levels, but not indefinitely. We'll need to find a balance that keeps you functioning without depleting our reserves too quickly. As night fell on the moon's surface, the temperature dropped dramatically. The shuttle's heating system strained to compensate, drawing precious power from their limited reserves. Jack found Nixara shivering slightly, her blue skin taking on a darker hue. Are you cold? He asked, concerned. Lysari regulate body temperature differently than humans, she explained. Need external heat source to maintain optimal function in cold environments. Jack retrieved a thermal blanket from the emergency kit and offered it to her. Their fingers touched briefly as she accepted it, and he was startled by how cool her skin felt, not cold like a reptile, but several degrees below human norm. Why help me? Nixara asked suddenly as she wrapped the blanket around her shoulders. Your protocol surely does not require risking yourself for unknown alien. Jack considered the question as he adjusted the environmental controls. Honestly, I didn't think about protocol. I saw someone in danger and acted. He shrugged. Human instinct, I guess. Not all humans would do this, she observed. No, Jack admitted. Not all would. The next morning, or what passed for morning in the artificial cycle of the shuttle, Jack suited up to venture outside. The ion storm had reduced to a constant crackling presence in the atmosphere, less violent, but still dangerous. We'll collect soil samples from different areas, he explained to Nixara as he checked his oxygen levels. The shuttle's analyzer can tell us what minerals are present. Dangerous, Hixara said, watching him prepare. Storm still active. We don't have a choice. Your translator says you've got maybe 3 days before mineral deficiency becomes critical. Jack secured his helmet. Besides, I'll stay within visual range of the shuttle. Outside, the landscape was transformed. The ion storm had charged the moon's thin atmosphere, creating eerie, shifting curtains of light above the horizon. Jack moved carefully, collecting samples from various locations and marking each one. He had just filled his 6th sample container when a particularly strong wave of energy swept across the surface. His suit systems flickered, and the heads-up display went dark. For a terrifying moment, his oxygen flow stopped. Jack fought down panic, remembering his training. He had maybe 5 minutes of air in his lungs if he stayed calm. He turned toward where he thought the shuttle was, but in the strange, shifting light, all directions looked the same dot. Then he heard Nixara's voice in his helmet come, faint but clear. Jack, follow light. Through the swirling atmospheric disturbance, Jack saw a pulsing blue light, the shuttle's emergency beacon, which Nixara must have activated. He moved toward it, each step careful on the uneven ground dot. By the time he reached the shuttle, his vision was starting to blur from oxygen deprivation. The airlock seemed to take forever to cycle. When the inner door finally opened, he stumbled. Inside, fumbling with his helmet seals, cool blue hands helped him, removing the helmet with surprising strength. Jack gasped, drawing in the shuttle's air gratefully. You saved me, he said between breaths, looking up at Nixara's concerned face. Balance restored, she replied simply. You risk for me. I risk for you. Together they analyzed the soil samples, finding that 2 contained traces of the minerals Nixara needed. Jack modified one of the water filters to extract these elements, creating a solution that Nixara could consume as she drank the mineral-rich water. Color returned to her iridescent skin. We'll survive longer now, she said, sounding relieved. Maybe long enough for rescue. Jack checked the shuttle's power levels, frowning at the readings. We need to conserve energy. Life support is drawing too much power maintaining dual environments. Nixara studied him for a moment and made a decision. We share space, one environment. I adapt to lower oxygen. You adapt to lower temperature. Both uncomfortable, but both survive. Jack nodded slowly. A compromise. It might work. He looked at the alien diplomat with newfound respect. For what it's worth, as first contacts go, I think we're doing pretty well. Nixara's translator couldn't quite capture the musical sound she made, but Jack thought it might be laughter. Diplomatic. Mission successful then, she said, even if not as planned. Outside, the ion storm continued its slow dance across the moon's surface, keeping them isolated from their respective peoples. But inside the small shuttle, human and Lysari had begun to build a bridge between worlds, one improvised solution at a time. 7 days passed since the crash. Jack and Nixara settled into a routine inside the shuttle. Each morning, Jack checked the systems and made any possible repairs. Nixara monitored their supplies and helped improve the mineral extraction process. For her dietary needs, the ion storm outside still raged, though with less intensity than before. They worked together in the cooler, oxygen-reduced environment they had agreed upon. Jack wore an extra layer of clothing, while Nixara seemed more comfortable in the lower temperature. She breathed more rapidly than seemed normal, but insisted she could manage with the reduced oxygen. Your translation device is getting better, Jack noted as they shared the small common area. He was repairing a circuit board while Nixara studied the shuttle's star charts. Yes, learns patterns in speech. Soon we'll understand most of what you say. She looked up from the charts. These maps, Very detailed for unexplored region. Jack nodded. This sector was just opened for survey last year. My company wants to find mining opportunities before competitors arrive. Nixara tilted her head in that now familiar gesture of curiosity. Why do you work alone in space? Most beings prefer company. Jack was quiet for a moment, focusing on the delicate wiring in front of him. I used to be married. It didn't work out. After that, being alone seemed easier. He glanced up at her. What about you? Do Lysari prefer company? We are very social, live in large family groups. Her purple eyes seemed to look beyond the shuttle walls. I am youngest daughter of my house, third generation of diplomatic lineage. So you're like royalty? Jack asked, surprised. Nixara made the musical sound that Jack now recognized as laughter. Not exactly, but my position carries responsibility. This mission-first contact with humans was my proving task. She gestured around the shuttle. Not going as planned, Jack smiled. I don't know. You're handling being stranded with an alien pretty well. Over the next few days, they exchanged more stories about their worlds. Jack told Nixara about growing up in a small town in Ohio, about fishing with his father in the early mornings, about studying geology, because he loved the idea that rocks could tell the story of a planet's entire history. Nixara described her. Homeworld Lysaria, with its 3 moons and vast oceans filled with bioluminescent life. She explained Lysari culture, their emphasis on community and consensus, their long history of peaceful exploration. Why did your ship have weapons damage? Jack asked one evening as they ate their separate meals, protein rations for him, mineral supplements dissolved in water for her. Nixara went very still. Not all species welcome contact. We thought humans would be different. Your broadcasts we intercepted showed curiosity about universe. Someone attacked you? Who? Unknown. Ship appeared suddenly. No communication, only weapons fire. She looked at Jack. Then your small ship found me. Jack pondered this information as he finished his meal. Who would attack an alien vessel attempting peaceful contact? And why? On the 10th day, Jack woke feeling unwell. His head pounded and his throat felt raw. By midday, he was burning with fever, unable to stand without swaying. Must lie down, Nixara insisted, helping him to his bunk. Her cool hands felt soothing against his hot skin. What is happening to you? Don't know. Jack managed between shallow breaths. Maybe something from the moon's surface, in the soil samples? Nixara used the shuttle's medical scanner on him, but it only confirmed what they already knew: high temperature, elevated heart rate, inflammation in his lungs. Need medicine, she said, searching through the medical supplies. Her translator struggled with the human labels, and she grew visibly frustrated. Small white box, Jack whispered. Broad-spectrum antibiotics. Nixara found the package and carefully read the instructions. She measured the correct dosage and helped Jack swallow the pills with water throughout the night. She stayed by his side, placing cool claws on his forehead and monitoring his vital signs. Jack drifted in and out of consciousness, sometimes mumbling about his past, about a woman named Kate who left him, about his father's death, about feeling lost among the stars. Fought to save our team, he murmured during one fevered moment. Engineering section hit. 3 died anyway. My fault. Not your fault, Nixara said softly, though she wasn't sure he could hear her. Cannot save everyone. By morning, Jack's fever had broken, but he remained weak. He opened his eyes to find Nixara asleep in the chair beside his bunk, her blue hand still resting lightly on his arm. Even in sleep, her features held a certain grace that made her alien beauty all the more striking. He studied her silently, realizing how quickly he had come to trust this being from another world. In just 10 days, they had moved from strangers to something like friends. The thought was both comforting and unsettling. Nixara opened her eyes, immediately alert. "You are better," she observed. "Temperature normal again. Thanks to you," Jack said, his voice still rough. "You stayed with me all night." "You would do same," she replied simply, rising to get him water. As Jack recovered over the next 2 days, he noticed Nixara working intently at the communication console. She had connected her translator device to the shuttle systems, attempting to boost its capabilities. "What are you trying to do?" he asked, still moving slowly, but able to join her at the console. "When storm clears, we must send message. To my people and yours." She pointed to a complex diagram on the screen. "Using your transmitter, modified with Lesari protocols, might reach farther." Jack studied her work with admiration. "You understand our technology quickly. Not so different from ours. Just ... She searched for the word. "Younger." That evening, as they shared the small common area, Nixara suddenly stood and performed a series of graceful movements, almost like a dance. Her iridescent skin caught the light, creating patterns that seemed to flow around her. "What are you doing?" Jack asked, fascinated. "Lesari meditation ritual. Helps maintain harmony between mind and body." She gestured for him to join her. "Will help your recovery." Jack stood somewhat awkwardly beside her, following her movements as best he could. His human limbs felt clumsy compared to her fluid grace, but the simple exercise did seem to clear his mind. "In my culture," Nixara explained as they completed the ritual, "sharing this practice means we are no longer strangers. We are ... Her translator paused, searching for the right word. "Friends," Jack suggested. Nixara considered this. "Similar concept, but deeper. Those who have faced danger together." "Comrades," Jack said. "Battle buddies, we called it in the Space Force. Yes, we have survived together. That creates bond." She placed her cool palm against his forehead, checking his temperature in what had become a familiar gesture. "Bond that may help both our peoples if we survive to tell our story." Outside, the ion storm began to show signs of weakening, the energy patterns becoming less chaotic. Soon they might be able to send a message beyond their isolated moon. But as Jack watched Nixara return to work on the communication system, he realized part of him was not in a hurry for their isolation to end. 2 weeks had passed since the crash. The ion storm finally began to clear, leaving behind occasional flashes in the upper atmosphere. Jack felt his strength returning after his illness, but other problems were becoming harder to ignore. "Power. Cells at 18%, he announced after checking the morning diagnostics. "Life support is using most of it. We need to reduce consumption even more." Nixara looked up from the communications array she had been modifying. "How much time?" "Left? Maybe 5 days at current levels. Then emergency reserves for another 3. Jack ran a hand through his hair, which had grown longer during their time on the moon. "Even if we can send a message now, the nearest help is at least 6 days away." Nixara was quiet for a moment, her purple eyes studying him. "You have been adjusting life support settings, reducing your oxygen while I sleep." Jack looked surprised. "You noticed? Lesari require less sleep than humans. And yes, I monitor systems too." She moved closer to him. "Why risk your health?" Jack turned back to the console, avoiding her gaze. "Your oxygen needs are greater than mine, and your body can't adapt as quickly as a human's can." He shrugged. It made sense. "Not acceptable," Nixara said firmly. "We survive together or not at all." They spent the morning trying to boost the shuttle's communication system. Nixara had connected parts from her translator to the human technology, creating an improvised transmitter that might be able to cut through the remaining interference. "Ready to test," she said finally. "We'll attempt narrow beam transmission to coordinates where Lissari Outpost should be." Jack nodded. "We should send to my company's nearest station, too. Cover all bases." They crafted a simple message explaining their situation and location, then prepared to transmit. Jack looked at the power readings with concern. "This will use a significant amount of our remaining power," he warned. "If it doesn't work, then we try something else," Nixara finished for him. "Always another solution." Jack smiled at her. Optimism. "On 3, then. 1, 2, 3. They activated the transmitter. The shuttle's lights dimmed as power was redirected to the communications array. A high-pitched whine filled the cabin as the modified system pushed itself to maximum output. For nearly 5 minutes, they maintained the transmission before the safety systems forced a shutdown. "Power cells at 12%, the computer reported. "Recommend immediate power conservation measures." Jack checked the transmission logs. Signal was sent. No way to know if anyone received it. "Now we wait," Nixara said simply. That night, they reduced the life support to minimum levels, lowering the temperature further and reducing oxygen to just above what humans required. They sat close together in the shuttle's small common area, wrapped in thermal blankets, their breath visible in the cold air. "Tell me about stars," Nixara requested. "Your human names for them." Jack pointed out the viewport at the brilliant starscape above the moon's horizon. "That bright one there? We call Sirius the Dog Star, and that group is Orion, aimed after a hunter from ancient myths. Lissari see patterns too, different stories." She traced another formation with her slender blue finger. "We call this one Shivara, first explorer. She charted first paths between stars. Maybe some of your ancestors and mine were looking at the same stars thousands of years ago, telling different stories about them," Jack mused. "And now we see them together," Nixara added softly as they talked. The communications console suddenly came to life with a burst of static. Jack rushed to it, adjusting frequencies. "Repeat, this is military vessel Dauntless. We have received your distress signal. Identify yourselves," and the transmission cut out in a wash of interference. "Military?" Nixara looked concerned. "Not your mining company?" Jack frowned. "No, something's not right. The nearest military outpost is supposed to be sectors away." He boosted power to the receiver, trying to clear the signal. Another fragment came through. "Locate and secure the alien vessel. All personnel are authorized to use necessary force." To contain any extraterrestrial, the transmission died again. Jack and Nixara looked at each other in silence. "They're not coming to rescue us," Jack said finally. "They're coming for you." Nixara's expression was hard to read. "The attack on my ship? Perhaps not random." "No," Jack agreed grimly. "Someone knew you were coming, and they didn't want first contact to happen. They spent the next hour scanning frequencies, picking up more fragments of transmissions. From these pieces, they pieced together a disturbing picture. A faction within Earth's military had learned of the Lissari diplomatic mission and had acted to prevent it, fearing alien technology would upset Earth's power structures or pose a threat. "Your people don't know about this?" Nixara asked. Jack shook his head. "Most humans would welcome peaceful contact. This has to be a rogue element." He looked at her earnestly. "Please believe that." "I do," she said simply. "I have seen your true nature these past weeks." Another transmission broke through. This one different a series of musical tones and clicks that made Nixara straighten. Suddenly, "Lissari signal," she explained, her voice tight with emotion. "Search vessel. Looking for me. Can you respond?" Jack asked. "Need more power," she said, already working at the controls. Jack made a quick decision. "Computer, Divert all non-essential life support power to communications for 5 minutes. Warning: this action will reduce cabin temperature to potentially dangerous levels and temporarily reduce oxygen flow. The computer responded. Do it, Jack confirmed. The lights went out completely, leaving only the glow of essential displays. The heating system shut down with a final whir. Jack could feel the temperature dropping immediately as Nixara sent her reply to her people. When the 5 minutes ended, the minimal systems came back online. The computer's voice seemed weaker than before. Power cells at 7%. Critical. Levels reached. Did they receive it? Jack asked through chattering teeth. The cabin was now bitterly cold. Yes, they are coming. Nixara moved to Jack's side, concerned by his shivering. Your body temperature dropping too quickly. She wrapped her thermal blanket around both of them, her cool body providing little warmth, but her presence somehow comforting. So now we have 2 ships coming, Jack said. 1 to rescue you and 1 to capture you. Potential conflict, Nixara agreed. Not good first contact scenario. Despite the seriousness of their situation, Jack laughed. No, not exactly the diplomatic mission you planned. They sat together in the dim light, conserving energy and warmth. Jack found himself studying Nixara's alien features, once so strange. To him, but now familiar, even beautiful in their own way. If we survive this, he said suddenly, what happens? Nixara seemed to understand his question. You return to your world. I to mine. First official contact begins. Will you be part of it? Jack asked. Yes, as witness to both human aggression and human compassion. She placed her cool hand over his. I will tell my people there is hope for understanding between us. Outside, the last traces of the ion storm flickered and died, leaving the stars crisp and clear above the desolate moon. Somewhere out there, 2 ships were racing toward them, one bringing danger, one bringing salvation. And they had less than a day of life support remaining. Jack woke to the sound of alarms. Red warning lights flashed throughout the shuttle. Nixara was already at the control panel, her blue fingers moving rapidly over the displays. Life support failing, she said without looking up. Power at 3%. Jack checked the time. Nearly 18 hours had passed since they sent their messages. Both the human military vessel and the Lysari ship should be approaching soon. Computer, estimate time until complete system failure, Jack requested, his voice hoarse from the increasingly thin air. Approximately 2 hours and 17 minutes until critical life support termination, the computer responded. Its voice sounded distorted, affected by the power drain. Jack moved to the viewport and looked out at the star-filled sky. Any sign of approaching ships? Nixara joined him, her movements slower than usual in the oxygen-poor environment. Long range. Sensors offline. Cannot detect until very close. They stood together in silence, watching the stars. Despite their dire situation, Jack felt an odd sense of peace. These past weeks with Nixara had changed him. Whatever happened next, he would never see the universe the same way again. Jack, Nixara said suddenly, pointing to a faint light moving across the sky. Ship approaching. He squinted, trying to make out details. Can't tell if it's human or Lysari. Within minutes, the light grew brighter, revealing a sleek vessel with lines similar to Nixara's crashed ship. Its hull shimmered with the same iridescent material. My people, Nixara confirmed, relief evident in her voice, but their celebration was short-lived. A second light appeared from the opposite direction, larger, more angular, clearly of human design. The military vessel Dauntless had arrived as well. This could get ugly. Jack muttered. The shuttle's communication system crackled to life with a message from the Lysari ship. Diplomat Nixara, we have located your signal. Preparing retrieval. Unknown vessel also approaching. Please advise situation. Before they could respond, another transmission cut in, this one from the Dauntless. Unidentified shuttle. This is Captain Harris of Earth Special Operations. You are harboring a potential threat to Earth security. Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with force. Jack and Nixara exchanged alarmed glances. We need to respond before they start shooting at each other, Jack said, moving to the com system. Both ships, he broadcast. This is geologist Jack Miller of Horizon Mining Corporation. I rescued diplomat Nixara after her ship was attacked. We are both alive, but our life support is failing. We have less than 2 hours of oxygen remaining. There was a tense silence before the Lysari ship responded. Understood, Jack Miller. We are preparing docking procedures. Captain Harris's voice. Cut in again. Negative. The alien will surrender to Earth authorities for security evaluation. Stand down, Lysari vessel. They're going to fight over us, Jack said grimly. Nixara placed a hand on his arm. Not if we give them reason to cooperate. She leaned toward the communication panel. Captain Harris, this is diplomat Nixara of the Lysari Confederation. I came to your system on a mission of peace. The attack on my vessel was unprovoked. I have spent 17 days with Jack Miller, learning about humanity. I have seen both the capacity for violence and for compassion in your species. She paused, then continued with determination in her voice. If you fire upon my rescue ship, you will confirm that humans are too dangerous for diplomatic relations. The Lysari will withdraw from this sector of space permanently, and your chance for peaceful contact with an advanced civilization will be lost. Jack added, Captain, whoever gave you orders to intercept this alien vessel wasn't acting on behalf of all humanity. This could be our first step toward peaceful relations with another intelligent species. Don't throw that away. The communication system fell silent. Through the viewport, they could see the 2 ships holding position, neither advancing nor retreating. Power at 1%, the computer announced. Life support failure imminent. Just when it seemed the standoff would continue until they ran out of air, a new voice came over the com system. This is Director Alan Foster of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. My ship has just arrived in orbit. Captain Harris, stand down immediately. You are interfering with the first contact situation and exceeding your authority. Through the viewport, they could now see a third vessel smaller than the military ship, but bearing the blue and white emblem of Earth's civilian government. Director, I have orders too, Captain Harris began. Your orders have been countermanded at the highest level, Director Foster interrupted. We've been monitoring all communications. The President has been briefed on the situation and has ordered peaceful resolution. The tension in the shuttle was palpable as they waited for Captain Harris's response. Finally, his voice returned, noticeably less aggressive. Understood, Director. Standing down. Relief washed over Jack and Nixara. The immediate danger had passed, but they still faced the problem of their failing life support. The Lysari ship was the first to act, preparing emergency docking with your shuttle. Please stand by. Within minutes, they felt a gentle shudder as the Lysari vessel connected to their airlock. The door slid open to reveal 2 tall, blue-skinned figures similar to Nixara. They wore what appeared to be environmental suits and carried portable life support equipment. One of them rushed to Nixara, checking her condition, while the other approached Jack with a breathing apparatus designed for humans. My people adapted this for your physiology, Nixara explained, as the device was fitted over Jack's face. Fresh oxygen flowed into his lungs, making his head spin with sudden clarity. As they prepared to transfer to the Lysari ship, Director Foster's voice came through again. Lysari vessel, we request a joint recovery operation. Jack Miller is an Earth citizen, and we wish to ensure his safe return. The Lysari responded with surprising openness. Agreed. We propose a neutral meeting on our vessel to discuss next steps. Within an hour, Jack found himself in the elegant conference room of the Lysari ship, watching as human and alien representatives sat across from each other for the first official diplomatic meeting between their species. Director Foster represented Earth, while an elder Lysari, whom Nixara addressed respectfully as chief diplomat, led their delegation. Jack sat beside Nixara, still wearing the adapted breathing apparatus, feeling somewhat out of place in his worn mining company uniform. Your actions have changed the course of history, Nixara said quietly to him. Without you, first contact might have been war instead of peace. Director Foster was explaining the rogue military faction that had attacked Nixara's original ship. They acted without authorization and will face consequences. Earth officially extends its deepest apologies for this incident. The Lysari chief diplomat inclined his head gracefully. We accept your explanation and apology. Thanks to diplomat Nixara and Jack Miller, we have seen that humanity's true nature contains much worth knowing. When the initial discussions concluded, Director Foster approached Jack. The President wishes to speak with you when we return to Earth. Your actions exemplify the best of humanity. Jack looked over at Nixara, who was conferring with her fellow Lysari. What happens now? To her? To me? Foster smiled. That's partly up to you. We're establishing a joint human Lysari outpost as a neutral meeting ground. We need someone who understands both species to help bridge the gap. He raised an eyebrow. Interested? Before Jack could respond, Nixara approached them. My superiors have named me official envoy to humans, she announced, her purple eyes finding Jack's. I requested you as human liaison. Jack looked between them, a slow smile spreading across his face. For years, he had sought solitude among the stars, running from his past. Now the universe had given him something he never expected to find: a future with purpose, and a connection that spanned worlds. I accept, he said simply, extending his hand to Nixara in the human gesture of agreement. She placed her cool blue hand in his, completing a circle that had begun in crisis and now opened into possibility. Outside the viewport, the barren moon where they had struggled to survive together grew smaller as the ships prepared to depart. But the bridge they had, built between their worlds, a bridge of understanding, sacrifice, and shared survival, would only continue to grow stronger.